Good afternoon, welcome to Codebase Alpha and a special bonus episode. Not expecting to get any viewers for this episode. This is really just to document some of the refactoring that we're going to do to solve the issues that we run into at the end of the last stream. So we wrote some code which I'm not proud of at the end of the last stream, and I just want to kind of make sure that we document how we're going to correct that. And it's all down to our friend Rambling Geek, who was in chat last night, who pointed out that as in many ways adding a layer of abstraction is a solution, then in this dialogue issue that we ran into, actually adding more component dialogues or breaking your dialogues down into more components is the solution, and that's what we're going to do. So just to look at the code, there's a code smell straight away when you look at the code, so let's go and sit in the code and have a look at what we've got. So over here we're in the set time zone dialog, and this is the area we need to refactor. It's the code smell you can see straight away is down here. We've got two steps, which one's called persist data step 2, which is immediately kind of indicates to you that I didn't know why I was adding that or what its purpose was. If we pop down there, this is it here, and you can see it is doing this parsing of JSON, but that's actually exactly the same as this parsing of JSON here. So we're just trying to work out a way of kind of working around an issue that we were having, and you see we put the to do here. We don't really want to do this, what we're doing here. It's a code smell. It kind of works. Let me show you what it actually does, but it's not what we really want. So if I run up the bot, we'll quickly run through what the actual issue we have is, and then we're going to try and solve it by doing some refactoring. And that's really the whole point. So this won't be a very long stream. We're just going to get the refactoring done. It's all be on video then, and then people watching this series on the Microsoft Bot Framework won't suddenly be left with me having done a load of coding off stream, and they won't know exactly why we did it or how we did it. So let's just grab the URL of the bot, which is over here, and paste that into our bot emulator. So API messages is what we add to the end of the URL to get to our bot endpoint. And here we are in the bot endpoint. We got our menu. If we click number 4, reset my time zone, and we type in US here, on last night's stream we set it up so that people can type in a country or a country code. They have to get the country spelled exactly right, but country codes, as long as it's a valid country code, it will actually work. So we'll go down here and we hit our time zone. This is exactly what we wanted. We wanted it to say, okay, I accept that you've typed in your own country code. You haven't bothered using our nice adaptive card we spent such a long time designing. But okay, and then here we wanted to be able to cope with the fact that someone might type in, I don't know, UTC down here. It's not a valid time zone for the United States, but someone might do this. And then what it does, it kind of basically says, oh, you need to select one from the drop down and hit submit, but then it just bombs out to our menu system. And what we really want there is a loop to keep asking you to put things in through the user interface without falling over. So it doesn't fall over at the moment, but it's just now they've got to go hit 4. It's not the right flow. It's not a conversational flow. I mean, we're writing a conversational chatbot, so we need to try and get that kind of conversational flow going. So let's stop the bot and have a look at what we've got. So there's really kind of two parts to this set time zone dialog, and they're the first two steps. We're going to get the user's country, and then we're going to get their time zone, and these kind of persist data steps. Oh, thank you, Matthew, for the cheer. Thank you very much. Yeah, so we've actually got 6 viewers. That's most gratifying. It's very short notice for this stream. Okay, so these persist data steps really. The first one was probably a good idea initially. One whole bit, thank you. Just try and get out. Okay, you can put another 99 bits on now you've tried it out. I'm being very cheeky, aren't I? And don't take that seriously whatsoever. The second one is obviously a code smell. We've messed around. Brendonius, thank you very much for coming in the stream. You've doubled it in bronze. Wow, whole 2 bits. Coated beard, welcome to the stream. A whole bronze. I don't know how long you'll last there, Brendonius. Probably an awful long time. Okay. So yeah, we've got to get rid of this code smell. It's this is one of these things. I would have tried to solve it last night on stream, but I had to end at the time allocated. Oh, Matthew, there's a bit war going on in tiny increments. Yeah, and but I kind of, I did not say I had a sleepless night of it, but I really thought about it a lot, and I couldn't leave this code smell and this kind of half-hearted attempt to solve this solution in place, and we need to do it properly. So what the solution to this is going to be, I believe, is we're going to basically create subdialogues. So we're going to subdialogue this as its own dialogue, and then this one as well. And we're going to lose these persist data steps completely, and then we're going to handle looping. So we're going to basically loop the this very strange bit war going on. Keep going, guys. Keep incrementing those bits. Then we're going to loop, and we're going to make sure that we always get good data. For the country, it's not so bad because there's several ways of getting good data other than pressing the submit button. But for the time zone, we want the user to press that button, to select from the list of valid ones and press the button. Okay, so that's the kind of plan. So the first thing we need to do is create some more dialogues. So let's create a country choosing dialogue. So we'll add a new class here, and we'll call it I don't know, choose country dialogue. Spell dialogue correctly, shall we? There we go. Choose country dialogue, and here we are. And we're going to now, if you notice from our time zone dialogue, we're actually extending our cancel and help dialogue, which gives us our interruption feature, and we want to keep that. So let's just grab that and pop that over here as well. So now we're going to extend the cancel and help dialogue. This is going to be a bit of copy paste initially, so let's grab our constructor and this property as well and bring that across. Because what we're basically going to be doing is stripping out functionality from set time zone dialogue and adding it to our new subdialogues. So we need to make sure our constructor has the right name, and then we've got a whole bunch of namespaces we need to make sure we're using. So that's a dialogue namespace, and that should be it. So we've got some steps here. Okay, so let's think about what we need there. So we need basically we need a get users country dialogue, a step rather, and a persist data step. So we still need to persist the data. Here in our setting up of our waterfall dialogue, we no need to prompt for a time zone because we're just doing country. And this is going to be the choose country intent. That's going to be the kind of identifier we're going to use to call this this dialogue. We can go back over here and see what we do. So in the get countries step, we basically do this. So let's grab the whole thing and bring it across and pop it over here. Okay. So that's what creates our adaptive card. Bring that in. We need to bring the schema in for the bots to fill those in. We've got a cancellation token over here from threading. Let's put that in. So now we've completed the get country step. It doesn't matter that these are the same names, by the way, because they're in separate dialogues. Okay. So I think what we'd like to do is actually put a message up before we start actually trying to encourage people to use the user interface that we've created. So let's let's do that. Let's say await, if we can spell it, step dialog, step context rather, dot context dot send activity async. Okay, and we want, what do we want? We want to send a some text. So where we do that from within the step is using a message factory, which is down here, message factory dot text, and we feed into that our text. And we're going to say something along the lines of please select a valid country from the list and hit the submit button. And we're going to also pass a cancellation token into there. Okay, so that will give us a message. It will print our card up, and then it will do the prompt, which is this country prompt here, which we've got defined in our steps there. Okay, so the next bit we need to do is persist the data. So let's have a look over here at our data persistence. So persist data step. Let's grab that. We're going to cut this down dramatically because we don't want to move on after we finish. This is all about kind of going to the next step as well as persisting the data, and that's not really what we want to do. Okay, over here, drop our persist data into here. Okay, so the first thing we do is to grab our user selections. Don't know if we really need to do that. We probably do. Okay, so we've got our user selections. Now we're doing our code, which is making sure that we've got JSON in our result. So this is one of the problems we were trying to solve yesterday, to make sure that we actually got JSON, because the JSON is what comes back on our post back. So we're going to need to cope with the fact that what came in here wasn't JSON, it was some kind of text. Right. Okay. Let's go back to our set Timezone dialog. We actually did this piece of work here, didn't we? When we grabbed, so we had some code here which was getting the country code. So we don't. So that does the JSON bit for us. We need this. We need this private method. We can bring that across to here. So now we've got that available to us. So here we don't need to actually do any of this here. We don't need to do what we need to do here is simply say that user selections dot country code is going to be equal to get country code, and in there we're going to pass in our step context, and that should bring us back our country code. Then we want to save that, so we need to await step context dot context dot no, that's wrong. It's not that. We need our accessor. Our accessor's called where is it called? The user selection state. So we're going to save what we just populated our user selections with. So user selection state dot set async, and in there we pass in return context, which is step context dot context, and then we pass in our user selections value, which is user selections, and then we pass in a cancellation token. Right, so we're awaiting that. So we're going to now persist our data. What next? So this has been a success. We've managed to we've come through into our persist data step. And as this is a string. The result is a string. It's not null and a string. We've used this code here to actually figure out what the value of our country code is going to be. So that's what we did yesterday. We need to bring that time zone names in, and we need to bring some link in as well. We got that. So now we can actually end the dialogue. Our dialogue has been successful. We've populated the user selections.country code successfully. So here we can return await step context dot end dialogue, and pass the cancellation token into that. So I believe that is it. Okay. However, the wrinkle here is if this wasn't correct, so if it was null, it wasn't parsable, it wasn't a string, so it couldn't have been parsed by this process. What we need to do is loop. We need to ask the user to give us the country code again. So how we loop is basically we replace the current dialogue with exactly the same dialogue, so it kind of restarts the dialogue. So here we can do a return of await step context dot, and there should be a replace dialogue here, which there is. So we're going to replace the dialogue, and we've got to go do a magic string removal exercise at some point. But the magic string for this current dialogue is the choose country intent. That's that there. Okay. So basic what we're saying is that if we're in the happy path, we're going to come through here and we're going to end our dialogue. A little sub dialogue is going to stop. If we're on the sad path, we're going to say we need to just ask you all that again. In this case, it's just one adaptive card asking them for a country. We're going to print out a message saying please select a valid country from the list and hit, not hot. Let's fix that. Even if they ignore us and they type in their country code or their country name, it should still work as long as it's a string that comes through into here and we can actually parse it out as a country code. Okay, well that seems to be all right. So let's do a similar thing for getting the time zone. So let's add another class, and this is going to be choose time zone dialog. So this is going to be really similar. So we'll just pull a few bits of code. Let's put that whole bit of code there. Oops, I've actually misspelled that, so we're going to fix that spelling. What a surprise, me misspelling something, eh? There we go. That's that fixed. So we need to update the name of our constructor. We can bring some namespaces in, dialog stuff in. This is going to be time zone, and this is going to be choose time zone intent, and we're going to get users time zone step, and you can see we're going to be basically using the same kind of pattern. We go over to set time zone. The bit where we put the card up is here. So let's grab the whole of that method and we'll prune that down. Here. So let's get time zone step async. Users time zone step async. I need a cancellation token. We don't need to do get country code anymore, so we don't need that. We want to start off pretty much there. There isn't an else. There, we need to bring in that. That's the bot schema. We need to bring our adaptive card folder in. We've satisfied that. No, that looks pretty good. Let's fix the formatting of our class. We should be able to fix formatting there as well. Well, we'll tidy the whole thing up in a moment. Actually, have I got CodeRush working? Yeah, CodeRush is in there. So I should get a... Yeah, interesting. Where's my cleanup code? Can't see that. Anyway, we'll worry about that later. Okay. We're displaying our card. So we want to also do that same kind of messaging before we display the card that we did with the choose country dialog, where we said choose a valid time zone, a country rather. We can do the same, choose a valid time zone. So we can pop that in there. Just tidy that up a bit. Okay. Yeah, so that looks okay. What else? So now we need to do a persist data step. Okay, so persist data step is going to be pretty similar to this. It's going to be slightly different. Let's go and have a look over here how we persisted the data here. So here's the persist data step, and this is pretty much what we want. So let's grab hold of that, and we're going to kind of trim it down a bit. Okay, here. Pop that in. We don't want to do this bottom bit, so we get rid of our nasty bit. We need to do the try pass of the JSON, and we bring in Newtonsoft as well. Okay. We've made sure our result is okay. Okay, if the time zone contains a TZ, if the JSON contains TZ, we're going to save our, pull the time zone and save it, and then we're going to end our dialog. Yep, that seems okay. It's what happens if this isn't the case. Then we want to do the same thing. We want to replace the dialog again. We want to go again, don't we? So just as we did that, we're going to come across here and do the same thing. If we drop this far, it's called a choose time zone event, intent rather than choose country. Now we're still going to have a problem here. Looks like splitting it will work. I think it will, Rambling Geek, and thank you very much for the suggestion you came up with last night. I think it's going to work, but I think we're going to have the same problem where it's going to come up twice. But I've got a cunning plan. It's not that cunning actually. It's like it's not cunning at all. It's probably not a great kind of plan, but we need to kind of do it because the way our code is working with these adaptive cards, it does seem that we need, over in the chat box bot, when we've got a in progress dialog, which is what this state is talking about, the waiting state is it's waiting for the completion of a dialog, we're calling continue dialog, and that seems to be necessary because of the adaptive cards, but it does seem to mean we go through these journeys twice, and we'll eventually get to the bottom of why it does that, but at the moment I can't see a way around it, because if we don't do that, basically the dialog just sits and never completes. It just sits there waiting for you to type something. If you type something, it works, but the idea is we want to press that submit button as the kind of default action. Okay, so let's go over now and have a look at our time zone. So are we going to be brave? I think we're going to be brave. We no need a long to prompt for anything, and we no longer need to persist for any data. We no need rather to do this private method, because that's now neatly in the right place. It's tucked away in the dialog for determining a country. We've kind of encapsulated that in its own class, which is where it needs to be, so we're not polluting this dialog. Okay, we need to now. So what we're going to do is we're going to, from within this dialog, we're now going to call the other two dialogues the subdialogues. So they're going to be basically going to be begin statements. That's all they're going to be. So we need to add those subdialogues up here. So it's going to be a new choose, what was it called? A choose country dialog and a choose time zone dialog. And we need to go and get the names of those. So that was choose country intent. And this is where we need to stop using these magic strings. And we'll have a section of one of our streams where we just remove that. We need to pass in user state here, don't we? Yeah. And then over here we've got choose time zone intent. And the word, if you wonder where the word intent comes from, it's really is because it comes from the natural language processing, which we're going to be doing eventually, but oops, that's wrong there. And we also used it in Alexa. Okay, Rambling Geek, I won't be streaming very long, Rambling Geek, so I probably won't be on. I'll be going over to Dev Chatter as soon as I've finished this, assuming that Brendan's will be streaming very shortly, or is streaming currently. We'll be popping over there as soon as I've done refactoring. So it's going to be a very short stream, but I think it's an important one to do, just so this is all recorded on video, so I don't kind of surprise people next stream. So I fixed all that off stream, and this is what it does, and it works. I wanted it recording. Okay, so there's that bit. So we've got our two new dialogues in place. We're only going to have 2 steps. So the first step is we can get rid of everything in here, because all we need to do is return await step context dot begin dialog async, and we're going to begin the dialog called choose country intent, and pass in the cancellation token as we always do. And basically that's all it does. So the looping for bad data is going to be taken care of in here. Kerry, welcome to the stream. Yes, well, I'm not quite wrapping up, Kerry, but this is a very short bonus stream, and the idea was at the end of the last stream I wrote some code which kind of worked but wasn't ideal, and it was a bit smelly, so I'm not one to leave that kind of code smell lying around for long. Katsuken, hiya, welcome to the stream, good to see you. And so I thought we'd just have a quick pop-up for a maximum of an hour, just so that I can show a refactoring which I thought of we could do, which Rambling Geek actually came up with the idea of creating even smaller chunks of dialogue to solve the problem and making them self-restart, and that's what we're doing really. So I'll go through the refactoring we've done again, once we've seen it working, or at least it running. I think there's still a problem. But I think I've got an idea to fix that as well. Okay, so we're running that. We're choosing the country, and that's all it needs to do. So in the choose users time zone step, we need to pull back the state. That's correct. And we need to know if we have a country code, because we can't move on to the time zone step unless we have a country code. So let's just pull everything out of here for now. Okay, so we need to test that we've got a time zone, sorry, a country code. So if user, if what do we say? If not string dot is null or white space user selections dot country code, user selections dot country code. So if it's not null or empty, then we're in good shape. At that point, we can start the time zone dialog. So choose time zone. Choose time zone event. I think that's what it's called. Yep. Choose time zone event intent. Yep. So that's good. If we failed, so if there was nothing in there, what happens? Then we can basically rerun the entire dialog again. So then we would return await step context dot replace dialog, and replace dialog basically is it's how we do looping. So it's basically pulling, it's going to pop the current dialog, which is this dialog that's running, the set time zone dialog, off the top of the stack and push a new copy of it back on, which will start from the scratch. So it will start. We haven't got a country code, so the fifth step must have failed. The first get users country step must have failed. So we need to start all over again. As a cancellation token into this, and the name of this step is set time zone intent. Okay, let's see if it builds. Okay, builds. So as I say, I think we're going to come into this issue where we have two. It shows the dialogues twice. But let's have a see. Let's have a look what it looks like. So we'll restart our conversation. We'll choose option 4. Set dialogue. United States. We're going to ignore the advice of the bot, but it's asking us to choose from the list. We're going to type US in. Hit return. It's asked to select the time zone, and you can see it's asked to select the time. So that the message is wrong. We probably haven't updated the message, have we? But also we've got select time zone twice, which is what I suspected will happen. Okay. Now the reason for that is that Slayer Darth, welcome to the stream. Good to see you again. That's really nice that you came back, and especially for a pop-up stream like this. Yeah, for these pop-up streams, keep an eye on Twitter for them. If you don't follow me on Twitter, then @CodebaseAlpha is the Twitter account. So please follow that, and then you'll get notification of plans for other streams outside my normal schedule. And these are good ways to follow. So if you're not a follower of the stream, please hit the follower button. Help us towards our goal. That'd be fantastic if you did that. and every follow is really appreciated, and we've got some special kind of graphical hype to show you if you do follow. So any follows today, we'll give you an electric elf. I'll show you towards the end if we don't get anyone. It's not about getting followers today. It's all about trying to document this change. Okay, so we're running. Let's stop. So where I believe the issue is when we come in to choose dialog, you can see this message. We need to change this message to time zone, so it's the correct thing. I believe that this message is showing twice, and it's doing all this because there's text inside the activity. So, Kerry, you say you're always looking at on looking for your favourite people. I'm very gratified and very pleased that you think I'm one of your favourite people. So yeah. You just want to on the command line to see which followed streams have gone live. That's a good one. You have a Node.js Twitch API. So yeah, so this what we're working on here as part of the dev streams project is basically we have an Alexa skill which does what your API does, or your Node.js integration does, and now we're building a bot that does that. So yeah, very good, Kerry. Okay, so I believe if we pop a breakpoint in here and run this up, we'll come in twice and we'll be able to kind of stop it actually doing any processing. So we don't want it to do anything that's in this block on the first time round when it's forced in twice. So it's going to be it's not going to be the most elegant thing that's supposed to do, but it's going to solve our problem, and we need to solve the problem. So here you can see it's come in here into our get time zones. If we look at the context, this is the turn context on the activity. We've got in the text property we'll have US, and that's the problem because we're no longer interested in the fact we got US. That's kind of old hat. We've processed the country code. What we're interested in is asking the user for their time zone. So if I now continue, we'll hit here again, and you'll see that US will still be in there. You'll see here it's still there. So what we need to prevent that happening. We need to kind of detect it's there and get rid of it. So the thought I had, and I can't think of any other way around it just yet, is to have a look at what's in there. So if step, so if what should we say? What's the best way of doing this? Okay, so if step context dot context, which is the turn context, which contains our activities. Fuel Snowball, welcome to the stream. Can I get an FT out of audio in HTML? I'll have to pass that to someone who knows more about HTML than me. I'm a back-end dev, really. So if anyone can help Fuel Snowball with this query, please do. Context dot activity dot text. So what we really want is that to have no value in. If that's not equal to null, then what we want to do, we actually want to make it null. So let's null it out. So now next time we come through, it won't have our spurious data that's spilled over from the last session. The last dialogue is spilling its content, its data into, it's kind of polluting our activity. So Slayer Darth is talking about analysing audio waves. Right, okay. Well beyond me then. And then what we want to do is just instigate the next step. So we're going to return at this point. We don't want to continue. We don't want to go down into that code. Return await step context dot next async, and there's a cancellation token that goes into there as well. And what we'll do, we'll copy this bit of code. I don't think we actually need it for choose country dialog, but we're going to pop it in anyway, because it might be a pattern we can reuse. So now what should happen is we should only get that adaptive card showing once, and the text please select a valid time zone sorting once. So Slayer Darth, fast for your transform FFT, right? Okay, beyond your domain, yes, beyond mine. I've got a one of my devs is a PhD in quantum mechanics, and some of the things he talks about are a bit beyond me. I'm fascinated by quantum mechanics, and he tries to explain it, and I think my maths is just lacking on it, but I do want to pick his brains on that kind of stuff. But yes, I've not done Fourier transforms. I think I might have done something with Fourier transform in mathematics back at high school, perhaps, but that was a long time ago for me now. Okay, let's see what happens. So what we want to happen is that when we come the first time into this dialogue here, this step of the dialogue, we want it to just call next. So it skips over the creation of our card and the display of the card. Let's see what happens. Refresh, restart our conversation. Hit this. Okay, it says please select a valid country from the list. We can say no, we're not doing that. We're pressing US. We've hit here. So it's persisted US into its user state. So that's worked. Now the text contains US. So when we step in, we should see it's going to return. Set it to null. We continue. We've come back in. This time it is null. And if we continue here, we should see we get the message once and our time zone displayed once. So we can submit that, and we come here, and we've got our Pacific Honolulu. If we try this again, and we see actually our country is Wakanda, which is obviously a real country, but it won't be in the time zone because they have a unique time zone. It says, oh, I don't know anything about it, select a valid country. So now in that looping. Tramasal, thank you for the follow. Let's give you some of our electric hype for that follow. So very much appreciated. So thank you so much. Here's Electric Alf. Alf is our alien buddy who works with us on the code base here. And that's him showing his alien powers. Follow, yes, we. Tramasal, thank you very much. Hype. Let's have some hyperspatial hype as well, because we haven't used that. So here's some hyperspace hype, which is an infinite number of our Alf alien friend in a lovely shader pattern, which FuelSnable did for us. He did both of those shaders. There we go. Hopefully the stream didn't suffer too much. That's just take a bit out of the stream showing that. Okay, so we've got our country. So we want to say, okay, we're going to choose. I don't know, what should we choose? Choose Indonesia. Submit. We've hit here. This time we've got JSON in there, but we've already dealt with country. Okay, we're now in time zone. We don't care. So we null that out, and we ask again. We hit here, and now it's saying what's the time zone, and we've got a couple of time zones here. We're going to type in Wakanda Central Time, and it's hit in here. This will have Wakanda Central Time in there. Continue. Now it's been nulled out, and it says, oh no, don't like Wakanda Central Time, please choose right one. So we'll choose, I don't know, Central Indonesian Time and submit. So I count that as a win. So Pure Stable, you did some improvements to Electric Alpha today. It came out nice. Yeah, it's looking really good. It's very. What we need is the sound effects to go with it, and I have yet to figure out how to layer the sound effects in there. So I'm going to find a good sound effect on there and try and get that working, so it's not just silent. But it looks fantastic, and I really do appreciate the work you've done on that. Okay, so there we go. We've got something working. Let's. So the other thing we need to do is just check that our interrupts are still working. So here I start this dialogue off. I'm selecting my country and I say stop, and it does stop. It cancels. If we do it again and we say help, it should print show help for time zone intent, which is not quite right, but we'll sort that out. And then it comes back and asks you to choose your country again. So if we choose our country, United States, and here we say help, oops, it should gracefully handle our interrupt, and it does. We need to update the message once again, but it's come back and said it's actually restarted the entire dialogue, but that's not so bad. We may be able to fix that up as well. And if we type cancel, if we type menu rather, let's try that. It will cancel and bring us back to our menu. So we're in a much better state now. We've got code that can be proud of. To Michael Jolly, welcome to the stream. It's a very short stream. We're going to be finishing very soon. As I was explaining to the people in the stream, that it's a bonus stream we're doing today just to get rid of the nasty code that we ended up at the end of last stream. I'm not saying it gave me nightmares or sleepless nights, but it certainly was smelly code and we needed to kind of kill it. So that's looking pretty good. Bit of tidying up perhaps to do. But let's just run through the refactoring once more. So what we did is we created a choose country dialog. So basically the two steps of our choosing set time zone was choose your country, choose your time zone. So we split that up into two separate dialogues. So we got choose country dialog, which we use to kind of extend our cancel and help dialog. And in there we show the card, prompt for a response, and we persist the data. That's all we do. And what we say in the persist data is that if we can successfully pass a country code out of the data we've been sent, then we save it to the user state and we end the dialog. If we can't do those things, then we simply repeat the entire dialog again. So we then go back and say, oh, select a valid country. It's a loop. And we can break out of the loop by typing stop, or cancel, or menu, or exit, or whatever. And that feature is brought to us automatically by extending the cancel and help dialog. So the other thing we did, then we created a choose time zone dialog, extending exactly the same class, and we did basically the same thing. We have a step which displays our adaptive card and displays a prompt, or waits basically for user input, and then it's slightly less complicated. Now in this one, where in our persist data step we say, did we get valid data? Was it in JSON? If it was in some JSON, did it contain the TZ keyword? If it did, persist it to our user state and save here and end the dialog. If none of those things happened, rerun the dialog loop. And then we went back into our time zone dialog, which was a bit of a sprawling class, and we tidied it up. And now we can do the most satisfying job of all. We can delete stuff. So the only two steps that we actually need to keep are get users country and get users time zone. So persist data with its horrible little to do, Bye bye. What a satisfying refactor. The code smell that kind of really bothered me all night is persist data step 2. Deleting stuff is very satisfying, Kerry. Very, very satisfying. And we've got how to do, it says remove this when replaying the dialogues is sorted, so we can now actually satisfy how to do. And now, once we've tidied up our using statements, now our class, which is starting to get a bit out of hand. I will sleep well tonight, Kerry, yes, hopefully anyway. I've got other things to keep me awake other than this code now. So now we're down to like 44 lines of code. Which I think is a very satisfying situation to be in. Great, so that's pretty much where I wanted to get to. I'm glad it worked because so let's just tidy, just one more kind of bit of tidying up in cancel and help. So it's interesting that no, I think we're okay. What it's picking up is the current dialogue here. So it's printing out show help for current dialogue, and we need to actually put the proper help into there. Which is interesting that it thinks the current dialogue, I suppose it is, isn't it? The current dialogue is the set time zone dialogue. Let's run it again, just make sure that's what it said, because I'm starting to doubt that's what it said now. Restart the conversation, set your time zone. So we're in the set time zone and we say help. And it says show help for set time zone. So that's correct. We're in the set time zone. We enter the United States. We say help at the time zone prompt because we don't know what we're doing anymore. Yeah, set time zone because we're not actually. You'd have thought we were in the sub intent, wouldn't you? The sub dialog, but we're not. That's interesting. Okay, well, that's what it says we're in. We hit stop. It's going to go back to our menu. Okay, so I think kind of mission accomplished there. So thanks for everyone who kind of popped in. It's really kind of pleasing to see you all. So if you haven't followed before, hit the follow button for me. That would be much appreciated. So I think everyone who's in the stream now is a follower, so that's great. We're 81% bulk of our follower goal. 81% towards our goal. So Slayer Dart, was there anything embedded or electronics wise? Okay, so this is a good question. But bye, Michael Jolly, and we'll see you on your stream soon. So I'm seriously considering buying us a Raspberry Pi. In which case we may do a little bit of kind of hardware project, but the hardware won't be the main focus. So there's other streams you can go to if you want to look at hardware. So if you want to build keyboards or do stuff with Raspberry Pis, then streams such as Carey's stream, C Payette, she does work with IoT, quite a lot of IoT stuff with sensors. And for things like keyboards and other things like that, there is Robert Tables, who does a Hardware Saturday stream, which is really good. And also we've got Rambling Geek, who's not in the stream anymore, in the chat anymore, but he was briefly, who does some things with Raspberry Pis. He does some things with his little robot called Vector. He's got an automated pan and tilt camera, which he's working on as well. So those are the streams you can follow for hardware and electronic kind of stuff. So Kerry says, I'm not sure if it will help any. I put an article out there, different tech though, but it's a quick read if you can get anything out of it. So Kerry, I'm sorry you couldn't post your link. You need to be a VIP or above to post links, and I will make sure that I'll sort that out for you next time we run the stream. I'll make you the VIP. Yeah, Vector is adorable. It's a shame that the company that does Vector's gone bump, and we're just hoping that the servers are going to stay up. So Slayer Dar says, you would have thought I came from the generation that started tinkering with electronics. Let me show you my first computer. Let's get DuckDuckGo on the case. So my first computer was the Ohio Scientific. Oops. We can show this on stream because it's no longer made. Superboard 2. Hopefully that will find it. That was my first computer. So yes, it was. We had to fit the power supply on ourselves. The power supply goes in this area. Luckily, the keyboard was already done, and it was one of the very few hobby computers, as we were called computer hobbyists back in the day. One of the very few hobby computers that had a full keyboard, full QWERTY keyboard. This was a bare board. It had some rubber feet, and it sat on your desk. Most of us built cases for it, but you could buy cases like this, which made it look a bit more professional. But that was quite expensive, so people made their own. My chemistry teacher, who's the person I credit with getting me into computing and technology, he made a wooden case for his. So yeah, so she was able to it probably was a better keyboard than most laptops. Yeah, it was a proper keyboard. So that was it. And I bought a daughter board for it, which sat on top, and it had a 5 1/4 inch floppy, and it ran a disk operating system, because this was all just basic in ROM. Basically, there's a BIOS and basic in ROM, and I had a disk operating system called CPM. Which, if you're old like me, then you'll remember CPM. But yeah, so you're right, I do come from and I'm also a radio amateur. I haven't done much in the way of amateur radio for a long time. So I did packet radio back in the day as well, and which involved building your own packet radio modem. So I've done electronics. My soldering is rubbish. It's very, very poor. I would fry more chips than I managed to actually solder. So if your says the ABC80 used CPM, yes, it was a very popular operating system before MS-DOS, which was then took over the world on your IBM PCs. But we had CPM was a very, very good operating system for us when we were learning this new stuff. So yeah, that was it. So I don't do anything with electronics anymore. I haven't got my eyesight isn't probably good enough to do lots of very fine work, and my soldering, as I say, is bad. So I don't do that anymore. But I would like to play with the Raspberry Pi, I must admit. So Carey says you used a C64 Amiga, but never owned one. Use a PET at school, a PET computer. Wonderful. I love the PET computer, especially the one with a proper keyboard. I think it started off with a funny plastic keyboard, wasn't very good, but the one with a proper keyboard, it looked like the real deal, the PET computer. Let me find the PET computer. People don't know what that is. PET, Personal Electronic Transactor, I think they called it. And it was 6502. So I used to teach 6502 assembly, and we did a little bit of Z80, but 6502 was the better chip to teach assembly language for, because it has a much reduced instruction set. So I used to teach that. I've forgotten all about it. The Commodore PET, here we are. There we go, the Commodore PET. And that's the one with the funny plastic keyboard, and the real one. And you can see it's got a cassette player built into it, because obviously in them days, before we had disk drives, we actually record our programs onto cassette tape. So that's the one with the proper keyboard. It even had a numeric keypad, and there is the disk drives you could buy as a separate unit, which sat next to it. Your dual 5 1/4 inch floppies. And there's another version. Let's see, there's different versions of it, but yeah. The PET this was the keyboard for the PET, and it was a funny kind of plastic thing. The keys weren't very good. They were very close together. Didn't have any kind of positive action on them. Anyway, that's enough reminiscing of my days in early computing. I don't like to show my age all the time, but I did used to write Fortran on punched cards. So that's going back quite a while though. Let's pop over to Twitch, and we'll see if Dev Chatter's streaming. He is. So let's go and raid Dev Chatter. So thank you everyone for coming over. It was fantastic to see you. So we've got Dev Chatter, and we'll give a raid over to Brendan. Do stay with us. His stream is amazing, my favourite stream of all. So do stay and spam the chat with Alf hypes if you've got them when we get over there. And I'll be joining the chat over there as well. So goodbye everyone, and thank you for watching.